Good? All right. Okay. You guys good to go? You ready? Ready to start? Okay.
Bring it.
Hi everybody, good afternoon. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your time here at the conference. My name is RJ Thompson. I'm a professor of graphic and interactive design at Youngstown State University. And this is Karan Saji, who is from Try My UI. We're going to split this conversation in half. I'll take the front end, he takes the back, save the best for last. And we'll be happy to take any questions at the end, should you have any. And if not, you can contact us on our respective social media or email or phone, etc. I believe you should all have our contact info. So today I want to talk to you about designing mobile learning apps for education, which is a really sort of general title. But I have some very specific sort of things I want to share with you that I hope that you can learn from and then are so inspired to build your own mobile apps should your classrooms be appropriate for them. I teach art, essentially. I'm a graphic designer, but I teach in the Department of Art, where online learning is really only used in the art history classes. My students learn in studios, in labs or sculpture labs, so on and so forth. So, my students aren't really attuned to using Blackboard all that frequently or any other alternative LMS. But with my design students who are more in touch with technology, using the Adobe products, using and testing their websites on mobile devices, I wanted to reach them where they're living, where they're talking to one another, where they're engaging in other classes, or perhaps talking about design work or critiquing design work on their phones or their tablets. So this is a little bit about my journey in designing mobile apps. Again, the overarching broad theme here, I needed to create an access point for student engagement. By being able to produce mobile apps, I could talk to them where they're living at any time of the day, in session or out of session, over the summer, any time. So, why mobile learning? Direct application with expected usage. I knew that if I could build an app that was visually interesting and offered really great content, then my students would tune into it. The whole building thing was very intimidating. I could build the content, but building the app by itself, where do you even begin? It's quite a large, steep barrier for entry. You know as well as I do that, especially if you're in online learning, which I'm assuming all of you are, that you're using your mobiles now. You're working on tablets or phones, and at YSU, the faculty, the students are engaged on all of these devices. So not only did I have to build an app that would work on the phone, it'd have to work on the tablet, and in the future it would have to work in other platforms as well, and by that I mean either iOS or Android. Why mobile learning? Convenience. I don't need to repeat myself if the information is always available. And what's nice about these apps is that you can download them from the App Store for free right now. Any one of you could download them. And what's really great about that is you can actually see the progression of how the first app might have been really terrible, and then it gets progressively better. But at any rate, I don't need to repeat myself. I can assume that my students, if on their devices in class, are not necessarily on Facebook or Twitter or other social media. They're using one of the apps to do an assignment or read course content or learn about a project. Learning extends beyond the classroom. So one of the things that I do, and this is tangential, but I share a lot of information and resources with my students on 17 different Twitter channels. Relative to the course topic. And I do that all year long. I take 1 hour on a Saturday and I just blitz all these channels with information. A lot of that circles through the apps. So an intro to, I teach web design, so an intro to web design student could download the app, and by the time they're a senior, they could still be using that as a tried and true resource for them. And then ultimately, at least for my students, it strengthens their efficiency, develops opportunities to learn responsibly, intuitively, and with attention. And more to this point, since I teach web design, those students seeing these apps know that they too can make these things. It might take a little bit more learning, it may take a little bit more time, but they too can learn how to do this. Which leads me to the novelty value. The students love it mostly because they know there are not too many steps removed from building these things. Which leads me to this slide here. Just yesterday I had my own portfolio app approved for Android, and the week before I had it approved for iOS. So whatever tablet you're on, you can download this, you can look at my work, you can see my student work. The technology that I use to make this particular app is accessible to my students through a corporate partnership I developed with AppSpotter, which I'll talk about momentarily. But it did not take long for them to make their own app and get it on the App Store, either Android or iOS. So this is the novelty value that I'm talking about. I introduced an app design project as a final in my Intro to Web Design course, and the students made their own portfolio apps as well. Some got rejected because the content wasn't there, some got approved. Either way, I've got a sophomore in design school who has a mobile app on Android and iOS featuring all of her work, which is amazing. So, the possibilities for non-developers to design mobile apps for their classrooms is directly proportional to the advances of WYSIWYG technology. WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. Drag and drop. Website builders are becoming more and more common. Drag and drop app builders are becoming more and more common. Consequently, they are more accessible to us. And we still at this point have to be a little clever on how we're using them, especially if we want to fit them into the context of a classroom app. But depending on the price, the amazing is available to you. And in most cases, at least for a trial, it's free. Some hiccups I had with my mobile apps, and I'll show you some screens on those in a moment. Poor Wi-Fi coverage, lacking cell services and or student data plans. Not everyone's on an unlimited plan or grandfathered into one, so data plans are a huge hurdle. Most of all, though, is the ADA compliance. What's fascinating about this, and I've been doing a lot of research with the Quality Matters standards, how does ADA work with custom-built educational apps? You know, Blackboard may be one thing, and perhaps their mobile app can set a standard. Granted, I haven't used it, so I don't know if it's good or not. But how does ADA fit into all this? And where does, can ADA govern this at all? Essentially, what the context of my apps, they're largely seen as products. They're not necessarily something that was created by the university. They're a research project. So they're under my jurisdiction, I suppose. So I don't know where I fall in that spectrum of ADA, and if I even have to accommodate. The apps that I've built are for my design majors. So students with visibility issues or auditory, those are the visual handicaps kind of cancel out the purpose for an app in a sense. But the audio, that could be done through YouTube with the closed captioning. Many institutions are undergoing ADA, as that has been made very clear to me this year at YSU. We've been going through a major ADA audit. And app design, again, it's there, but it's not. I don't know which way to go. So, why am I advocating for WYSIWYG app builders? Well, there's minimum instruction on design and construction. So your design options are limited, your construction capabilities are also limited. They're accessible and intuitive UI. The app builders, these WYSIWYG app builders, they're not going to give you the whole kitchen sink and effectively make an app that is not good. They want all of the apps that come out of their tools to be on the App Store, so they control your palette, in a sense. The ability to download the binaries. A lot of these app builders, they don't want you to have the packaged files. So they don't want you to go buy an Apple developer account or an Android developer account under your own name, not necessarily your institution, and then use their tools to build your app, download the source files, and then upload them through your own account. They want those controlled by their account. All right. This matters in that it sort of confuses ownership. These app builders, the content, you own it. If you read the fine print, they say you too own the app, but you're not uploading it to the app stores, which means you're also not paying for the costs associated with that, a total of $125 for both stores. But if ownership is very important to you, then be aware that some of these app builders do not give you that option. Many of these are startup companies that are banking on the novelty of WYSIWYG builders. So instead of hiring an app developer and dropping tens of thousands of dollars on them, you can make these things for free. Now granted, they're basic, but that does not mean they cannot be useful. This is the one company that I've been using, and I use them for the portfolio app. They're called AppSpotter, AppSpotter. They are based in Sweden, and one thing I want to convey to you folks is if you find a service like this, do not be afraid to contact them. I reached out to these folks on Twitter, and the following week I was talking to their CFO about developing an academic partnership where, hey, my design students build skins and themes for your apps, and consequently we get all your paid services for free. Awesome. Very, very cool, which, we just got enabled. Interestingly enough, when I mentioned about the packaged services, AppSpotter is now making those packaged source files available for download. So you can create your own account, which I did on Google Play, uploaded the source files, and no joke, within an hour of upload, my app was on the App Store. Which was really exciting because if you know anything about that, Apple is notorious for shooting down apps, at least the first time, and then taking weeks to go through it again. It can be a very labored process. So, what else worked? Finding other free apps, some pre-built apps that I can modify in Xcode. Xcode is the primary source for app building, at least on iOS. You have to know a whole bunch of programming languages to do that. If you're interested, I certainly recommend checking it out, but it is a significant effort to learn these, not only learn these languages, but to learn the protocols behind getting even a test of your app on a device. Apple does not make it easy, but the other side of that is they're managing and controlling quality. What did not work so well? Trying to learn Xcode from scratch. Trying to learn Objective-C or Swift. Trying to build an app from scratch. Tutorials make it look easy. Those tutorials are from tried and true app developers that of course think it's easy. And then trying to figure out the provisioning profiles, app IDs, without reading anything about it. Because yes, I may be a professor, but I'm a terrible learner, and I just jump into things and try to figure it out and reverse engineer it the complete opposite way of how I should do it. Okay. I want to jump into some of these images, and then I'll come back real quick. Nothing is more exciting than seeing your app icons on a device and being able to program basically tap that button and your app shows up. One of the things that I've done in my curriculum is I've branded all of my classes. So each class in my curriculum has a particular color scheme so as to define it from everything else. This is my Intro to Interactive Design. This is a History and Theory of Graphic Design class I teach. Here are some of the screens. The user experience is all based on a lot of pre-design thinking and research, which I'll jump back to. But I know the visuals are the most exciting. This is a hybrid app. A hybrid app is part native in that it uses the technology on the phone to operate, and the other half uses the internet. So all of my course content is based on the web. It's a website. In fact, it's a WordPress site. The app takes the content from the WordPress site and gives it a different aesthetic. And you can access all of these different points, the syllabus, schedule, news and updates, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, the YSU Arts website, my faculty profile, and then any credits that may be involved in the development of the app. This is what a typical page would look like. And again, it's just pulling in that content. This is called a web view between the nav menu and this header. That's just a web view, so it's pulling in that content. So I only have one content source, but different means of translating them. Projects, these are all individual pages. Clean, simple, short to the point. Okay, so how did I get there? Just some things I want you to think about. If in fact you are interested in making your own mobile apps, some things to think about here. Define your concept, your audience, features, and future goals. The first iteration of your app is not going to be the last. If your students do not necessarily take to it the first time, keep iterating, keep improving if you can. If you're using WYSIWYG builders, sometimes the improvements aren't in the interface, but in the content, more specifically in how it's featured. Okay. 2, determine if features can be built using the WYSIWYG app tool, or if you have to do it the hard way. I would say start out basic, build up from there. Draw wireframes of your user interface and detail the UX plan. Get some paper, draw boxes on the paper, and work it out. My interfaces are simple, clean, short to the point because my students don't have time to waste. Even though they could probably handle an interface that has a bit more detail, keeping it simple allows me to clone that app design into all the different classes that I have in my curriculum. So I have one source that I clone several times, one website that houses all the content, and I just make a new page or a post in WordPress and it routes to the appropriate class. Design wireframes using Photoshop or similar tools. There are tools that are easier to use than Photoshop, and they are certainly out there, and they are free as well. Hopefully, one of your some of your institutions have access to Adobe. If you need to, hire a designer or developer, especially if you get a grant. This is an area where I've gotten a lot of good grant money to develop these resources. In fact, I just got a small $500 grant, which I can put to really good use if I buy pre-built app assets. Start learning and experimenting. Get yourself a tablet, an Android or Apple account, developer account. The Apple account is $100. The Android is $25. Start following the tutorials. Break, build, rebuild, break again. Most apps are built in HTML and CSS now. HTML, CSS, and PHP. So if you have some familiarity with either HTML or CSS, this process is going to be a little bit easier for you. If you've reached a point where you have a functioning app, test it in the app simulators, if at all, if you can. Again, getting through the provisioning files through Apple can be a real pain. One of the things that these WYSIWYG builders are doing is they have you download a simulator app. You build your app in the browser, so no software to download. You download the simulator app on your tablet or phone, and then you scan a QR code, and then it shows you your app. Pretty cool. So you circumvent the whole provisioning profile process. You do this to submit for review and deploy to the store, and if you're approved, congratulations, the work has only really just begun. But it is really exciting to be able to sit on my couch and log into my website on my phone, put in some content, and then it updates to the app. The other thing worth mentioning there is notifications. One of the things that I do is I have text notifications built in. So when an assignment is due or I have to cancel class, I can just type in the message, and ping that out to the people that downloaded the app. So I don't know your name, but let's say you downloaded my Intro to Interactive app and I canceled class tomorrow, you would get a notification on your phone. Sorry if that's annoying, but now you know, don't come to class. Okay, so hybrid benefits. Easy updating, bypass the App Store review. Coding that creates web browsers and apps doesn't change all that frequently, so that's pretty nice. More design control depending on the WYSIWYG tools that you're using. And you don't have to be totally reliant on the internet to use your app. Again, if you skew more native, but more often than not, if you're making an app for your class, it has to have internet connectivity. As I mentioned before, you can buy the pre-built templates. These range in cost. You can buy a really nice app that's fully built, fully designed, $20. Then you got to figure out how to hack it up and modify it to the way that you want without having to do a ton of hard coding. I recommend this if you're ambitious enough, or if this may be a developed research area for you. Surprisingly affordable, so the barrier for entry is low there, but the learning is so steep. If you use a new framework like Ionic, which I'll talk about, all of these use HTML, CSS, and PHP. CLI stands for Command Line Interface, which is all operating system coding, and then JavaScript. Ionic, AppSpotter, AppGyver, PhoneGap, they all have the simulator apps you can download and just scan a code and it shows you your design. Okay. Before submission, make sure that you are testing your apps with your intended audience, specifically on the devices you built the app for. So if you're only building for iOS, get a bunch of students in a room, have them try it out on their phone, on your phone or your testing devices, and see what they have to say. Sometimes their feedback won't generate positive results, in that if you're using WYSIWYG Builder, it may handicap you completely with improvements. Pardon me. Otherwise, the other nice thing about this, and I forgot to mention it, the AppSpotters, the PhoneGaps, the Ionics, they build cross-platform. So you build one app, it works on Android and iOS. So you may find that your students prefer the experience on an Android. Okay, that details a lot of opportunity insofar as maybe you just focus on developing for Android as opposed to iOS. Okay, so try my UI, and Karin's going to talk about this in a few minutes. Try My UI is a user interface and user experience feedback tool that I had used in the development of these apps. And it provided for some really valuable information. Particularly, I tested all of my students, at least in one particular class. Here's the app on an Android, here it is on iOS. What do you like, what do you dislike? And I found that aside from them giving me some specific feedback that they wouldn't say to me in person, but through this tool, I found that they really appreciated having this information available to them in a concentrated app just for that class. It's not like they had to log into one app and it has all of their classes and they have to keep clicking to get to their very specific content. It's like, there's the intro app, it's all there. So content-wise, I knew I was in a good direction. Aesthetically, it didn't, of course I'm testing graphic designers, so I got flack from them on how minimalistic the interface is and how boring it looked. And that's fine, you just got to be able to parse through some of the content. But at any rate, I provided students with images of the UI, and in some cases I let them try out the demo on a tablet and a phone. I attained their feedback, revised the design, revised the content. Keep in mind that I'm using a WordPress backend for my content, so some of that some of those edits occurred on the website itself, not with any of the app technology. And then after I revised, I tested the functionality. That's where I determined, okay, Wi-Fi, if it's spotty, it's not going to be the most seamless presentation. Or, you know, the students, if they're in a place where there's no Wi-Fi, then their data plans might be a little bit slower depending on the carrier. And that's also depending on the file sizes of what they have to load. Essentially, I set up my test. I picked the target users via email, so I sent them emails on all of this. And in some cases I got videos. Brief. Again, I'm questioning like sophomores in college. Some of the videos were brief. Some of the videos featured comments that just didn't directly apply. But for the most part, there was good content. There was some good feedback. This is what some of the feedback looked like. This isn't verbatim, so you don't have to read it, but the content that I got, be it positive or negative, sort of showed up like this in this bunch of thought bubbles. The icons don't make any sense. I don't know what they meant. You know, icons in app design is actually a really interesting conversation in that there are typeface sets available now that are just icons. And the apps that I have use those typeface sets. So they're all just a bunch of icons. It's like wingdings. It's like, just choose a random character, and then that character means that thing. So if I choose a percentage sign, let's say for example, that means syllabus now. Well, no one knows that. It's not universal. So I was going to get flack on some of those things. Okay, submission. I talked about this briefly, but with Apple, it's much more rigorous in the review process. And also, what's nice about this, do I have any untenured people here? Okay, so it's just me. Okay, all right, great. Hey, guess what? Peer-reviewed. Yeah, you go through Apple, that's peer-reviewed. I've gone through there a few times. I'm feeling confident. Android, peer-reviewed. Apple is much more rigorous. Sometimes first submission can take up to 2 weeks. If you get issues and you have to revise them, it could take even longer for them to check those revisions, and they're only going to do it so many times before they flat out reject it. Apple is just notorious with quality control, and as an Apple user, I wholeheartedly appreciate that. Google is much more loose in their standards. I think with Google, they're looking more for precise use of technology as opposed to user interface. We've all downloaded terrible looking apps on either iOS or Android, so you know, take it as it is. But with Google on Monday, I was surprised to get through in an hour. And then this here is also great to look at. This is what my intermediate interactive design course looks like on the App Store. You can see the details, reviews, of which there are none, so I'm taking that as a good sign. Screenshots. This is very exciting to see, especially if you've worked on it on your app a long time. All of my app, not all of them, but at least my course apps, 3 of them are clones of one another. So I build one app source, change the skins, change the colors, change the content, upload it, and it's there. So I've got 3 course apps that I've built out of one in a small amount of time. Here's another image of what that looks like on the App Store. Coming back to the app builders, they'll either want you to submit your app under their name. So if you Google, I'm sorry, not Google, that's such a poor synonym for search. If you look up RJ Thompson Graphic Design in the Google Play Store, you will see that the submitter, the developer, is me. That's because AppSpotter has allowed me to do that. But if you look at that same app in the iOS Apple Store, it's going to say AppSpotter. I think for me, it's important that my name is on it because I'm an egomaniac academic. Said in jest, I'm a nice guy. But for everyone else, no one cares. It's such a trivial matter, but and as I've experienced in academic circles, gotta have your name on it. So at the end of the day, for me, it's about making my teaching easier and more accessible to my students in or out of class. Okay. Some of those app builders, they offer you the opportunity to pay for the right to download your source files. If you've got the money for it and it's inexpensive, I'd say do it. You've got nothing to lose there. Here's an app I built using AppSpotter. It's available on Google Play. This is for my Youngstown DesignWorks program, which is a student-run graphic design agency. And you can see more from developer. There's my name. So, what's the best method to learn all of this? The WYSIWYG app builders are free or easy to use or cheap. The user interface, typically I use MovenCube, I use AppSpotter, Ionic. They're easy to use, and that's great. But if you want to learn how to do this from the ground up, I would recommend it be self-initiated and self-paced. Take your time. Don't rush through building an app. Even if you hijack a pre-built template, still take your time with it. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you bought it. All right. I believe that everyone's capable of producing apps for their classes and should, provided the interest is there. I know that my students appreciate it. I know they enjoy saying, "Oh, your professor doesn't have an app for his class like mine does." That's what I heard in the hallways. But I think it really changes the identity of the class and the experience that the students have in that class with the apps that I've built. And I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm looking forward to using these drag and drop tools because it does make my life easier, it makes the development easier, and it yields the same amount of success and results as it would building it from the ground up. So I definitely recommend you guys give it a shot, despite however rigorous it may be. Take the risk, be patient, and try it out. Formal classes may give you a basic deliverable and knowledge of app design, but again, I'm going to be the guy that says just jump in and try it out and see what happens. And if you're interested, this is actually my first app. It's Intro to Typography. It's really old, really old. I haven't updated it beyond what it sees here, what it looks like here. And for any of my iOS files out there, you know that's an old aesthetic. I have YSU Intermediate Interactive Design, Intro to Interactive Design, and one other one, History and Theory of Graphic Design, but that app doesn't work. You download it, you open it up on iOS, and then it shuts down. So I got a bad review on it. But hey, the students that I have in class got a good amount of use out of it before it started to not work. So thank you for your time. I'm going to switch it over to Karin, and happy to take questions that you guys may have at the end.
Thanks, RJ. There's a lot of hard skill involved in making apps. RJ covered a lot of it, knowing what builders to use, what's WYSIWYG, stuff like that. One essential hard skill that you need to build apps, from the first day you scratch a design on an app to the last day when you submit it to App Store. Not just an app actually, it could be a website, an online portal, somewhere where you interact with students virtually, an online classroom. It needs to go through testing. Testing of the prototypes, from there to testing of the final product. And who better to give you feedback than students? That's user testing, that's usability testing. When you design something, not just in graphic interaction design, any artist, you have your end user in mind. For us, it's students. We have students in mind when we are designing these online classrooms. How will they interact? How will they click on this button, get the syllabus, download this, and then submit the assignment? Stuff like that. And we want to make that as intuitive and as friendly as possible for students. how many of you knew about usability testing before coming to this session? Okay, great. And how many of you have used usability testing softwares in the past? Excellent, excellent. That's great. So Trama UI is just that. It's a usability testing platform. It's a software. The best part, it's free for faculty, students, and staff. So it's a great follow-up to RJ's resources for you. This is a great resource for you. If you're thinking of an app or a website or anything online, really, you should test it. Test it with your students. Test it with potential students who might even sign up for your class after seeing how great your platform is. The EDU program is one wing of the company that brings the best of UX and our software to higher education, to institutions of education, to you guys. The company is committed to bringing our software and the enterprise tools. These are the tools that our industry clients use, and they pay thousands a month for it. We're bringing that to higher ed at no cost because we are committed to bringing these tools to faculty so that students can learn from the best. At the moment, we serve 70 institutions across 10 countries, which makes a lot of room for virtual collaboration. This is an example. I met RJ through the EDU program. I run the EDU program. This is the first time RJ and I are meeting, actually. We've been on phone calls and emails, but we have had a lot of virtual collaboration. We've had webinars, we've written blogs together, we published a paper together. So once you are in this program, you not only get the software, but you get this community of faculty members and their students across 10 countries, across various disciplines, where you can engage with them, collaborate with them. Hey, what app did you build? How did you build it? How did you test it? Let's talk. Those kind of conversations happen a lot. And these are the disciplines that we have covered so far. Because usability testing is applicable to anyone, of course this is not limiting, it's applicable to you. But so far the bulk of the EDU program has been these guys. Who in this room is amongst these guys? Nobody. Great, it still applies to you. And there's room for even more diverse conversations. If you are building an app, why don't you let me connect you to a professor of web design in New York, in San Francisco, and you can have those virtual conversations and collaborate on how to do that. This is the tree of the EDU program. The core is the free software access. The program gives you access to Trama UI, period. And you can use it for your research, for building an online portal, an online class, an app, anything on a screen you can test with Trama UI. It can be a prototype, it can be a finished product. And everything around it is what has evolved in this program. So the orange is opportunities for students that have sprung about. So if you join the EDU program, if you're using the software to test, your students can participate in our case competition, for instance, get visibility in the industry. Again, it's a virtual competition, so last year we had students from Rome, India, Iran, US, Canada, all over the world participate. Students get internships and social media networking on LinkedIn. We have exclusive groups which are committed to connecting students to industry members, mostly in the UX industry, in the design industry. If your students are interested in that, then this is for them. And UX reps and contributors are students who work virtually with the company, and they work with me directly in bringing this access and building apps and websites for their clients, for extracurricular opportunities. The gray is the opportunities for faculty. You have this software access not just to build and test your own app, but also to give it to your students. If you have a student who wants to build an app, an entrepreneur who wants to build his own website, his own company, use this tool. You have it until you graduate. Faculty members have been really engaged in our webinars and really engaged in having conversations with the industry audience. Our clients and our partners worldwide are not just interested in usability and UX, they're interested in design. And if you are designing something, even if you're not a designer, I'm not a designer, I work at this company, I bring this tool, I'm a part of that process, but we bring a unique perspective onto design, sort of a liberal arts perspective from a different background, and those conversations are very rich. So you're welcome to attend webinars, engage with our industry audience. And curriculum support. The book I'm passing around, This Sucks, is part of the curriculum support. We've published a 3-book series. First teaches you how to use the software. The second teaches you how to integrate that into your classroom. So if you have students who can use the software, how do you go about it? And we wrote the book with faculty members who've done that. And the third book is This Sucks. It's case studies, it's conversations from industry professionals of design, and it's our analysis of what's happening in the design industry. And these are all free. They're available on our website. I have 3 copies of This Sucks in this room. So if you want a hard copy, grab your hands on it. If we run out, let me know. We have more copies, and I'll send them your way. I'll mail it to you. Let me quickly compare what we hear most from our clients. You would not believe. At Trama UI, we have so many clients who are designers, who are building apps and websites, and they tell me these things. And I hear the same things from faculty. So when you go out, you are gonna, in a few months, you will say these things to me. It just takes too much time. I don't have time for this. I need to do my research. I need to teach. Who has time to build an app? Now, at the company, our CEO and ourselves, we're really committed to using these issues as something to improve our software. So Trama UI is designed to solve these problems. You don't have too much time? Why don't we crowdsource your work? If you're making an app and getting feedback from students, you're basically going to get 100 to 200 hours of feedback. You don't have 100 to 200 hours to sit through the feedback. So let's crowdsource it. And we'll just give you one PDF that tells you what to do and what to improve. Sounds great. That's the UX crowd. The UX diagnostics is part of a survey that ranks what's important, what's least important for you to move forward, simply put. It's a hassle to coordinate people in a team. If you're building an app by yourself, great. If you have a team of 15 people, or if you're hiring someone to do that for you, then there's an inbuilt tool of collaborative analysis where you can see what they're doing, they can see what you are doing when you're testing. Yeah. Okay. Look very curious. That's great. My budget is low. I don't have money. Well, EDU is free for faculty and students, so go ahead, use it as much. Students can use it until graduation. And these days, so many students are entrepreneurs. Especially in the virtual space, anything they put online, they can test, and they should test it for their target customers. I want to make it more interactive. Everything that RJ said. Get feedback from your students. You have unlimited free testing of the software. We have our own pool of testers. If you don't have students to reach out to get feedback from, you can tell us that I need feedback from 18 to 35-year-olds in XYZ with this much income, blah, blah, blah. And we'll find those people for you among our tester base, and we'll get you feedback. This is a sneak peek of what the collaborative analysis looks like. So in a usability test, what happens is that the student will go through your app, and as they're going through, they'll talk out loud what they're thinking, what they're clicking on, and our software captures their screen and captures their voice and their movements. So you know what they're thinking when they're clicking this, when they're frustrated, when they're relieved that they found it, how much time it takes to download the syllabus, to sit through the class, to find something. So that's the video. And as you're watching the video, you can make notes. Okay, at this point in the video, student had a trouble. So I need to change this web page. I need to change this button. This color is not working. Blah, blah. EDU for online distance learning. This is the overarching message of what I'm going to dig into. We can polish online platforms, what I talked about. We can provide tools for experiential learning, especially with the 3 books. We share curriculum content. We extend industry opportunities to students, and we support faculty research. Trama UI being a platform, it is a constructive tool. You You can use it to build your own platform. You can use it to teach. So the difference in that is you can use it to build the app, or it can be a part of the syllabus in the app. So the second part of the book teaches you how to integrate the tool into your syllabus. So if you have a course where students can build a website, or they should as part of an experiential learning project or extra credit or something, then we walk you through some samples of how to do that, and you can do it. And everything is possible virtually, so it's online learning, distance learning. Polish the UX and interactivity, experiential learning, share expertise. Again, those are the 3 books that I talked about. It's all on the website. I'll share the link later. You can take it down and you can download that for yourself. In addition, every faculty member who is in the EDU program, I directly send them a packet of UX and design resources once a month. Once a month they usually get a case study, an upcoming webinar, student opportunities, internships, case competitions, whatever's happening in the industry for higher ed, you get notified of. So if you want to spread that to your students, go ahead. And you can let them know that these opportunities exist and this is how you can participate in them. UX Wars. Our UX architects, our designers, every month they run a case analysis of 2 big brand competitors, and we post it on our blog, and we publish that in our books. We analyze what's working on the web and what's not. What's good with a Domino's website that makes it easy for you to order pizza, that sucks on the Pizza Hut website. What we can learn from that is, how can I make my classroom better that's better than RJ's? I'll share some stories of just a few of existing EDU partners and what they've done. So Youngstown State, RJ's University, students have created their own OS concepts, prototypes on Envision, where they're hosted. They've tested that with Trauma UI, and they've presented that to a panel of industry professionals, of designers. We were in San Francisco, this was happening in New York, so we live streamed it worldwide. So that's another example of virtual collaboration. If your students are doing something cool, I want it. Trauma UI wants it. We want to showcase that compelling work to the industry so they can break in the industry easier. East Carolina, students and faculty tested a geography atlas, online mapping tool. So if you have students who are doing real client work somewhere in the world, if they have stakeholders outside the classroom and they want to test a project, they can do that. That's their own research and they have access. Dartmouth, their web services departments, not faculty staff, not faculty students, excuse me, but the staff launched a new program where students improve academic departments' websites. Academic departments' websites can be improved, let me say that. And they've used our software and given it to students and say, run with it. Test it, improve it. Tell us what the visitors want and we'll make the content and we'll polish it up, we'll bring it up. One last one. EDU also partners with nonprofits. Because we're so committed to bringing the tool to students, if there's an institution, it doesn't have to be a university. It could be a nonprofit that's bringing design education to students, then we give them our tool. So students in Mozambique, Madagascar, EDU supports their learning by giving content on design, giving them case studies. We actually translated a few documents in French for them so they could learn. So the reach is quite global. I covered for faculty. I'm going to touch on what's in store for students. Again, it's an extracurricular tool. They can take it home. Trauma UI doesn't only exist when they're in the class. They can take it home, they can use it for their own projects. It's a resume hard skill. So a lot of students miss this. Put Trauma UI on your resume. People know what it is, and it shows that you know one solid software to run usability testing. And you get access throughout your student status until graduation. I think I touched on most of these. EDU, there's EDU alumni perks. Once students graduate, the world doesn't end. They're still connected with our industry clients, our partners on LinkedIn. So are you in our groups. So the conversations keep going. So the program only grows. Your classrooms only grow. And that's another way for you to keep in touch with your students virtually. UX Wars, this is a really neat platform for students to share their work. Students have run case studies on their favorite websites and given us those reports, and we've loved some of them so much, we posted them everywhere. We plastered it on our blog, social media, and these guys read it. Nike actually read the report. They liked our report. There was another one this past month that they actually read it. They posted on Twitter. So that's a great way for students to break into the industry. So if your students want to do that, great, go ahead. Some students are also content writers for us. Students who were not designers but got into this field, who were entrepreneurs actually. They designed their own website, they tested it, got feedback, loved the platform. They said, we want to write content on visibility and design, and we want to tell our story, essentially, and we give them a platform to do that. That's an example of LinkedIn. This student wrote this case study of student university nice to travel, which are like Expedia websites to book flights, and got traction from our CEO or investors. Near the end. Okay, so I gave you a pamphlet with takeaways. That's for you to take home. If you go to tramaya.com/edu, all these freebies are on there. How I give you access so you can test it on your own apps. I give you a portal which is unique for each institution. So if you want that portal, get in touch with me. You have my information and I'll send it to you. There's no agreement form, contract. There's no fuss in getting this access. I will simply email you the portal. Go ahead. Give it to your students. Use it. It's quite simple. If you go to tramaya.com/resources, that has the 3 books that I was talking about. If you need a hard copy, let me know. I can mail one to you. The blog, the KS competition is coming, September. Social media. Next. What to do next? Get your access. Let me know. I'll get you your portal fairly quickly by next week. And then I'm here until tomorrow, 2 p.m. If you want to sit with me and see how the test works, how I can set it up, talk about it, about prototypes, I'm here. I'm here to talk. Extend it to students. Once you're in EDU, join the webinar panel. There's a lot of good folks out there talking about a lot of good stuff. And join the conversation. Exclusively for this conference. Until tomorrow, this is a unique portal. So if you can't wait to get in touch with me, you need access right now. You can go online on your phones here and sign up. And you have access. And I can always send you a unique portal for your class, for your students. Thanks.
Got time for questions if you have any.
So when you talked about you cloned the apps,
Yeah.
do you have to go through the legal system control?
Yeah, so how you would clone it, like it's as simple as like copying files. So on your desktop, let's say in one folder I have all of the source files. I would take all of those, copy them, and paste them into a new folder, modify the aesthetics, change out the web-based components, and some names and other odds and ends, and then I'd have to submit that too. So there are separate submissions and evaluations. Yep.
You said one of them started developing like work. Were you actually alerted as a developer?
No.
You seem surprised.
I was. I woke up one morning and I got an email, and it said, "You have a review." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." I don't know what student did it. I still don't. But I looked at the review and it said, "This app doesn't work." I downloaded it, I click on the button, it shows me the splash screen and then shuts down. So what happened there was I built that History and Theory app. If any of you downloaded it, it doesn't work. Here's why. I built that using Ionic, and Ionic has its own software that did not upgrade in time for the iOS upgrade. So basically, the new version of iOS kills it without getting too technical. Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's one reason that my organization's been discouraged from doing apps is the whole iOS update, maintaining versions and that kind of thing. So can we address that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's why I built the hybrid apps. So when I was here last year, I talked about a custom learning management system that I built. Long story short, my students hate Blackboard. It doesn't work well for artists. So I built my own out of WordPress as the framework. And that WordPress site it plugs into my apps, as I mentioned. So basically I update the WordPress site and then that content shows up on the app. So the idea is I don't have to actually send any updates to Apple ever again, except when, of course, they kick over a new iOS and there's so many, the changes are so substantial that I have to upgrade the app, which is why that history one doesn't work. So all the course content is online, which is why my apps need the internet to work. So I would say out of all the apps I have on the App Store, I've never actually had to submit a new version. The Intro to Typography app's been on there for at least 2 years, and I haven't had to submit a new version because it's pulling information from a website. So that's how I avoid it. Those concerns are certainly well-founded, and that's one thing that I didn't want to get into either, was how do I avoid that? And that's pretty much the only way on a practical level.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyone else? Yes, yes.
I have some copyrights and teachers and school dynamics. So when you mentioned that these are your apps, have you been kind of questioned about that? Because I'm on the teacher side of things, but where it's complicated is if you work for a school, essentially what you do belongs to the school, many schools.
Mhm.
That's still kind of a gray area right now in higher ed and everything. So what do you think? How are you dealing with that?
I would say at my institution, it's a very dark gray area. They don't have any idea how I'm doing this. They are aware that these things are available. I think, let's put it this way, I've had some grant successes. So on a PR side, that they're happy about that, which may be one preventative mechanism that keeps them from shutting me down. I haven't gotten any flack for it yet. That's not to say that I won't. Now the copywriting, that situation is very concerning. I'm not using any. The aesthetics that I built for each of the classes is represented in the app. So intermediate is a darker green, intro is a brighter green. I built that as an employee of the university. Yeah, technically they own that. But I don't think they have any idea how to govern app design. Much like how ADA, how do you manage that? Or even Quality Matters, like what are the standards for maintaining that quality of not only the learning but the aesthetics and functionalities and so on and so forth. Content-wise, the copyright on the content is really important. So I have gotten some flack from peers in my department saying, you shouldn't put your content out there publicly. Other design programs are going to pick up on what you're doing and they're going to replicate it. And as flattering as that is, I don't make it a point of concern. I teach interactive design. It changes every single week, sometimes daily, and there's just no way to catch up to it. So my intro class this spring, in the fall, it will be vastly different. Now, I'm an anomaly in that sense. You know, if I'm teaching history and theory of graphic design, the other side to that is, well, I don't have any unique content here. You know, any other history educator could read a book and pull that same information because it's the same. I don't concern myself with that. Others may. I'm also not an established author. You know, I don't have any books, and if any of that content was built into my apps and then was subsequently infringed upon, then I suppose I'd have a deep concern with that. But as of now, I don't. I'm not interacting with it, and it doesn't bother me, and no one's giving me flack for it. So when I get that, I will let you know when I get into those kinds of troubles, which I certainly suspect I will. I definitely expect to, yeah.
Where even online teachers, the assumption is that if you're doing something in your online class, does that make a unique idea or a unique way? It's essentially like you did write a book, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be you getting in trouble, it would be you losing your content and your creativity. So it wouldn't be about you getting in trouble.
One of the nice things about, I suppose, with technology is that you can't stop it. You know, even if it wasn't an app, I would find... So, like, another part of my research is augmented reality and virtual reality. Okay, well, I'm going to move on from app design, and I'm going to do a virtual reality thing for my class, and it's going to be based on my content. So, it's always going to be something new, unfortunately. Do you have a question?
When you're designing hybrid design for WordPress, what sort of app, where do you usually start from there? What's your base?
Sure. So, where I really start from, I have a virtual private server. That private server hosts my WordPress site, which is called Study. Study is housed on a virtual private server, which means I can house more bandwidth. I can take in tens of thousands of visitors at a time. I have more memory. I have just total access and control to this server. So I have the technology behind the app. So that controls the website, and ultimately that controls the content that is seen through the apps. WordPress is just open source. If any of you use it, which I'm sure is possible. I've got multi-site plugged into that, so it's one WordPress framework governing dozens of sites. And each one of those sites correlates to a particular class in my curriculum, of which we have 18. Each one of those has its own distinct URL, and each one of those apps corresponds to that URL. So that's sort of the web. Reason for using WordPress: free, open source, easy to use, quick to use. If you can use Microsoft Word, you can use WordPress relatively effectively. When you start getting into the more complex things, then it gets much more chaotic. But that's been a stable foundation to work from. Another thing that I'm exploring is using Tumblr, and integrating social media more into these apps, as opposed to relying on a website I have to build and maintain and pay $500 a year for, and all this other stuff. And, I like the idea of being able to use Tumblr. Does anyone have a Tumblr blog or use Tumblr? Okay, so some of you folks would know, like, it's really easy to use, and it's so swift, and being able to plug that in is just great. The portfolio app of mine that I had mentioned, a lot of that is built out of Tumblr. So the pages are housed in Tumblr, but it's a different container. So that's the long and short of that. Cool. Well, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it. Any questions, comments, concerns, direct those to my email or my phone, and look forward to hearing from you and talk to you on the interwebs. Really active on the Twitterverse today. Thank you.
Yeah, I just saw your